Okay. First of all, I want to apologize to you, Daddy, because I know that you prefer to direct and that you would rather be behind the stage watching this happen and having orchestrated it. But I am going to do my very best to make you proud. And that includes not having a preacher, a prayer, a Bible reading, or any of that. And so as I told some of these people, I'm taking all of that time for myself, so please get comfortable. When I was trying to write this eulogy, I thought of a story that my father and my mother both love. And it's one originally told by the great Oscar-winning actress Kate Hepburn. She was offered a role in a movie, got the screenplay, looked over it, and decided this is not for her. So she started one letter to the producer, and it was very angry in its own way. How could you consider me for, I don't want it. She got a couple paragraphs in, was like, this is not how I want to be. This is not the right letter. So she starts another one. And this one's more entertainment, performative sort of style. She gets a few paragraphs in, and again, it's not really the way she wants to reject it. So tries again, same thing. Another third paragraph, third letter, doesn't work. Tries a fourth letter, still isn't happy. At that point, Kate Hepburn grabbed all the letters she'd started, bundled them up together, wrote a cover note saying, I think you know what I was trying to say, and just sent all 4 unfinished letters off to the producer. The reason I mention that is because it was sort of the same thing here when I was trying to write this eulogy. I had a lot of different things that came to mind that seemed appropriate, including the musical number that I scrapped at the last minute this morning. But the first draft of this was kind of dramatic. I was going to have taped an envelope underneath one of your seats, have you all look. And then I was going to say, give me the envelope, please. I was going to win the award for the best father I could ever had goes to. And then I think you get the point. And I thought that would be a fun way to kick things up because he loved style and a little flourish and he loved movies, but you all know that. And because you all know that and you know how much he loved movies, I just hope that after today, you occasionally smile when you see or hear or think about him or some of the movies and actors he loved, like Peter Pan, Annie Hall, Silence of the Lambs, which he thought was one of the greatest films ever made, Chinatown, Two for the Road, Witness, The Exorcist, Peyton Place, I Want to Live, Something Wicked This Way Comes, Midnight in Paris, Manhattan, Song of the South, Giant, The Way We Were, Searching for Bobby Fischer, Leave Her to Heaven, Fandango, The Manchurian Candidate, and Forbidden Planet, where he loved Robbie the Robot. And it's amazing to me that a man who came from such humble beginnings, who came from an incredibly poor small town, so rural, a single shotgun house, fire a gun front, goes right out the back, had no insulation, half the time didn't have plumbing you could use without pumping it outside. And his parents ran Fanny Borders, were both mill workers, never graduated high school, hardened by the Depression. So for my dad, they talk about the Depression, the movies were an escape. By the time he was born, the Depression was over, and some people would say he still used them as an escape from his small town. But I don't think that's true. I think for my father, movies were always a promise of what was out there and what was inside for everyone. And I know that because when he was a little boy, he told John and me this story that I'd never heard. We went to Atlanta with him. And he talked about when his parents used to go up for these Baptist churches, conventions in Atlanta. Daddy would scour the newspapers for days and make a carefully coordinated chart of what theaters were playing different movies at what times so that he could manage to get a bus between each one and see as many movies as he could during the course of the day. And he would wear his little Boy Scout uniform, and he would always say he took great pride in being able to get out of his seat and offer it to someone. You can see, guys, why he was so proud to be in uniform like you. And then, when we went with John later, he took us all through Atlanta and showed us where all those theaters had been. Remembered every single one. Remembered what movies he'd seen there. Remembered dancing with Anne Margaret at the Playboy Club. I don't know if you knew that, Mom, but you had a great time. Yeah, anyway, so that happened. When I got to that and I was thinking about us walking around Atlanta and all the things he knew and all the historical sites he could always remember, it made me realize that I had started this eulogy completely wrong. So like Kate Hepburn, you can forget everything I just said, and this is the second letter. So my second version of the eulogy begins with a quote from my dad's favorite movie. Raise your hand when you know what it is. Chapter 1. He was tough and romantic as the city he loved. what was it, John? Manhattan, Woody Allen's. He called it the only perfect movie ever made. And he loved that city. And he loved cities in general. And so when he grew up and he was out of that Boy Scout uniform, he went to go see the world. And more than that, through movies, through music, through plays, even through airplanes later, he took people to see the world. And he inspired people everywhere to show him things that he'd never known so that he could learn and be a better storyteller and be a more rich and full man. He literally wrote the book about movies and travel. And in that, he included great characters, which made me think I screwed up the eulogy again. So my third letter, like Kate Hepburn, began with thinking about the people he loved. Not just the movies and the places that we talked about, but the people he cared about. He romanticized and idolized some great memorial characters, like memorable characters like JFK, James Dean, Eugene O'Neill, Steven Spielberg, William Goldman, Woody Allen, Richard Burton, Liz Taylor, Kate Hepburn, Betty Davis, Susan Hayward, Alexander the Great, who I discovered just yesterday was born in Sochi, but only the Greeks say that the people in Sochi call it Macedonia. Did I get that right, Randall? Fantastic. So, I'm so close. Randall spent a lot of time hearing about Alexander the Great with my dad. Daddy loved John Williams. He loved the music of George Gershwin. And those people were important to him. And they came from all walks of life. And he loved all kinds of people in his real life, his regular day. And in each of his carefully chosen friendships, Daddy revealed something about himself. And only after his death have I discovered some things about him I did not know. And I'm just going to read you just a couple of the hundreds of messages I got. So you can hear the people who could not be here today. Daddy, a lot of your friends are really old. Or far away. Some of them far away. So here are some of the things that I heard. Don Borders was a wonderful man. I really felt like he was interested in everything everyone had to say. Great guy. Great party giver. Your father was a pioneer for gay rights in Greenville. No one has attempted to break barriers like that since the days of the Stone Castle. Wake up, Greenville, and thank you, Don Borders, for being woke before it was a word. I'm so sorry to hear your dad's passing, Tiffany. I know he gave you so much more in your life, but clearly he gave you your love of movies, which is no small thing in its own right and a gift to treasure. Here's one that surprised me. He was absolutely a wonderful man to me. I was homeless. My car was broken down. He stopped to help and gave me a place to live. This was when he was managing the theater, if my memory serves me right, and it's been a long time ago. But while I was staying there, he had a heart attack on your 16th birthday, and he trusted me to stay there and take care of his home until he got better. He got me a job, helped me get off the streets, and I've moved on, but have never forgotten the kindness of his heart. People talked about the parties that he threw. Had no idea he knew so many hot Santas, apparently, but apparently he did. Still have the stuffed gorilla he gave me with a first place ribbon for best Christmas card, somebody wrote. I think the one that gets to me, though, talking about his friends and people, came from one of his students, like you, John, from Wade Hampton High School when Daddy was a drama teacher. I am heartbroken. Don saved me when I first arrived at Wade Hampton. I was so very angry and lost. Don taught me how to channel all those feelings into my talent. He took the time to show me how I could become a good actor. And thank you, Don. You will never be forgotten. Because on the first day in Don's drama class, I remember him saying that each of us probably came to school the same way each day. It had become routine for us. Don said to look for something new each time, each day. And I've maintained that teaching for 40 plus years that I've been in the film and video business. And now that I've had time to reflect, I follow that same advice in every encounter, every experience, even every concept I ponder. And people in the biz have said that I have a good eye. Well, I suppose so. 2 of them, as a matter of fact. It's pretty funny. I kind of dig that. But it was Don Borders who opened my eyes for me. Don Borders gave me sight like no other person could. I will remember him all my days with great love and a huge sense of gratitude. And that's a wrap, Don. I thought that was amazing. But then once I started writing all these and reading all these, I wanted to cry. So I scratched that eulogy too, so we're not hearing that one either. And I just went jumping right to the ending of this eulogy and to, I guess, the last public speech, Daddy, that I'm making for you. Because the ending, it isn't about the ground. It's about the sky. Most people don't know that Daddy gave me my love of flying. Hang gliding, the skydiving that scared you, the flying the single-engine Navy jet plane and turning its engine off to scare you, the flying the biplane with John to scare you. All of those things and more. My dad was that small-town boy, and when he looked up at the sky and he saw the white lines there of planes going by, he knew that there was a bigger world. He knew that the world that he saw in movies existed. So as a little boy, he read all the flight stories. He used to write letters to all the rocket scientists and all the Manhattan Project guys, and he got letters back from most of them. And he'd read them over and over again. As soon as he could out of high school, and first one to graduate in our family on that side, he joined the Air Force. He was so proud to serve. And he would be so proud to know that you were here today to mark his service. He was a patriot. When he was done with his service, he followed every single shuttle launch. He wept with the rest of the nation when the Challenger exploded. When I lived in DC, we always had to go to the Air and Space Museum every single time. When we went to LA, we would have to go to Hollywood Forever and see the big space shuttle cemetery thing that's there. It's just, I think it's just ridiculous looking. We took a job with Continental when he retired from the movies so that he could fly to everywhere. He'd always sit, when he just, to everything. He just wanted to go everywhere. He went to Rome and Venice, climbed the Great Wall of China 3 years after a heart attack. He made friends, rode camel. Took me and John to Norway, and we retraced his steps as a spy. And then even after his last stroke, 6 years ago today, he loved still to trace with his fingers those white lines leading up there in the sky to places where people could fill their dreams. And of every single poem in the whole wide world, after years of teaching, this is the one that meant the most to him in the Air Force. And it's kind of how I want to close things, more or less. Ronald Reagan read this in a televised address to the nation after Challenger exploded. And it was written by an Air Force pilot named John McGee on the back of a letter to his parents, which they only received after they received the news that he had been shot down on a routine training mission, oddly enough. So here we go, Daddy. This one's for you. Oh, I have slipped the surly bonds of earth and danced the skies on laughter-silvered wings. Sunward I've climbed and joined the tumbling mirth of sun-split clouds and done 100 things you have not dreamed of. I've wheeled and soared and swung high in the sunlit silence. Hovering there, I've chased the shouting wind along and flung my eager craft through footless halls of air. Up, up, long, delirious, burning blue, I've topped the wind-swept heights with easy grace, where never lark nor eagle ever flew. And while with silent lifting mind I've trod the high untrust sanctity of space, I put out my hand and touched the face of God. And after that poem, and here at the end of the eulogy, and I'd like to thank the great Kate again for her help in putting it together. I thought I could end with one of those traditional moments of silence, but you know my dad, and he freaking hated silence more than anything on the planet. So instead, actually, Mom, that's probably why he married you. And then kept me around, you know, but not a lot of silence there. Anyway, speaking of things that take too long, I know that I've gone over my time, and I'm sure the Academy's going to have to play me off the stage in a minute. So I want to do one last thing. Screw it, I'm just going to go back to the original plan. Daddy, on behalf of the Academy of your friends, it is my honor to present you with a Lifetime Achievement Oscar, and to ask your friends and family to please stand and give you one last standing ovation as we say goodbye. seated.
Detail, attention, put. Post. Please rise for the playing of taps. You may be seated.
President of the United States Air Force, and a grateful nation, please accept this flag as a symbol of our appreciation for your loved one's honorable and faithful service.
I'd like to thank you all again for coming here. There's a lot of great pictures. Most of you read some of them, and I think we're probably gonna get something to eat. And I love you all, and so did him. Thank you very much.
Coffee, water, sweet tea.